Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Soul Seeds, where the lovely Jessica is my guest expert for today. And Jessica is an intuitive guide and a medium. And the topic we are going to discuss today is how values can reduce fatigue and overwhelm. So I would love to know, because I wouldn't put those two together. How does that work?
No one puts those two together.
Enlighten us, please.
Well, it's interesting because when we think of values, a lot of times we just think of these nebulous things that are sort of out there. And when forced to think about them, we could probably list one or two or maybe even more. But what I find really interesting is a lot of people's values aren't actually their own values. They're either something they feel like they should believe in, or they're something that their family has believed in, and they've sort of just picked it up along the way.
Right.
And when that happens, values tied directly into this, to our purpose and really working with our purpose. And when we have values, or we hold on to values that aren't really ours, or maybe they were ours, but now we've evolved and it's time to kind of relook at those things, our choices and our ability to make decisions and to understand where we're going diminishes greatly if we don't actually know what our values are and how to work with them. And then we get this fatigue and this overwhelm because we don't know what we quote unquote should be doing. We don't know what we want to be doing. We don't know where we're necessarily going, or we've got these choices out there and we're not sure how to pick. And so we waste so much time and energy going back and forth, that we actually physically wear ourselves out trying to make a decision. And overwhelm, obviously.
Right.
And so when we know what our values are, we can make decisions so much more easily than when we don't. So what I say to people is grab a values list. They're all over the internet. They're all over the internet. And take a look at all the words on there and just circle or highlight the ones that resonate with you, that those are things that you believe you value in this life. And then from those maybe 10 or 20 that you go, you're going to want to narrow it down to 3 to 5, because what you're doing with your values is your values should be present in everything you do. Not just one value, not just 2 values, but all 5 values. I have 5. So all 5 values should be present in what I do, how I'm acting, how I'm moving through the world. And when I look at decisions in the past that have not turned out well, I can tell you that they're not in alignment with one or more of my values. And it would have been so simple to just put those values out right in front of me and weigh it out that way than it was to go back and forth, and maybe still choose something that isn't for my highest and best, right?
Right.
It's amazing.
And where do they literally stem from? Are you born already with your values? Do they grow over time? Do they change over time?
Yes, all of it. I think that they change. I think that they change over time. So I think we have our soul self that we come into this world and we value certain things based on the multiple lifetimes that we've led, what we know to be true about ourselves on this soul level. There are things that certain souls just naturally gravitate towards, right? And we see that out in the world. So I think values are a part of that, and how we express ourselves as a soul. Often our values, we don't really think about them. We take on our family's values, or maybe an institution's values very early on in our lives. And for some of us, that's the set we use our whole life, whether they resonate with us or not.
Yeah, we don't question those.
We don't question them. We just put them on. And sometimes they wear like a coat that doesn't fit right. But we hold on to them because that's what we feel like we should do.
Even though it's uncomfortable.
Even though it doesn't fit well, and the rain's getting in, and there's a hole, and the pocket doesn't, falls out.
It's not cute.
But it's not cute, doesn't look good, doesn't feel good. But we're going to carry it around as if it's the only coat that we can ever own in this life. And that's where I think we get stopped up. And as we grow, as we evolve, as we are, meet challenges in life, and we go through these transitions and we move into transformation, our values are going to do the same thing. Because the more we know, and the more we know ourselves, the clearer we can get on what really matters. And that's what values are. They're the essence of what matters to us in this lifetime.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it there with knowing yourself. more
Yes.
because we are so influenced, of course, like you said, by, of course, our parents, our friends, schools, other institutions. If you go to church, you can be influenced by that, but knowing to in your core what your values are, that's the most essential, right?
Right. And the beautiful thing about values is there's this duality. So you have values
Mm,
and other people have values,
right.
and you can all hold your different values at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes those values will, kind of like to ride along with each other. They're compatible, they're
Mm-hmm.
complementary, and sometimes they're at odds and they clash.
Yeah,
And I
that
think
happens.
if we were to sit down people who are entering relationships and being like, what are your values? Right away, like on date 1 or 2, we'd probably realize that this isn't going to work out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Ooh,
oh,
write
I
it on
see.
Tinder. These are my
Right.
values, people.
These are my values.
Yes. Swipe
You know?
left if they're not yours. No.
Exactly. If you don't think yours are compatible with mine,
Right.
they don't have, people often, well, what if my spouse's values aren't the same as mine, or my
Mm,
partner's values? They don't have to be. They just
right.
have to be complementary
Mm-hmm.
and kind of work and come together in a way. And I think then that way, when you're making decisions and things like that as a joint team,
Mm-hmm.
at least then you're doing it from this point of view that no
Mm,
one's values are so wildly off base that it's going to be
right.
impossible to make decisions that everyone's happy with.
Mm. And can these values also serve as like an anchor in stressful or anxious
Yes.
times? Mm-hmm.
Yes. 100%. Let's say you lose your job
Mm-hmm.
and you want to go and you want to get a new job, but you don't want it like the old job,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I always am telling in my coaching practices, I'm always saying, y'all, when you're looking at either even starting your own business or getting a new job, does the company that you're about to work for, what are their values?
Mm-hmm.
And are they in alignment with yours, or can they work with yours? Because if they can't, I guarantee in about 3 to 5 years, you're going to be like on the road again,
Mm-hmm.
like by choice,
Or burnt out.
or burnt out, or overwhelmed, or
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're hitting a brick wall and nothing's changing because the way you move through the world doesn't work with the way they
Mm-hmm.
move through the world.
Right.
And so I think that right then and there cuts a lot of future drama out
Mm-hmm.
when we understand. I would have never made that choice if I had sat with my
Mm-hmm.
values.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's also then about setting boundaries for yourself, right?
Yes,
In
yes,
accordance with those values.
correct,
Right.
correct. And it's never a yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes our values can definitely be like, this is not a good fit for me.
Right.
But sometimes our values can challenge us to use our imagination and our creative selves to be like, it's not in alignment with these two, but what if I could switch something? What if I could move this piece around? What if this was just a little bit different?
Mm.
Could it be in alignment with?
Right,
I
right.
don't have to accept it just as it is. What if I
Mm-hmm.
played with it a little bit? Then
Right.
can I make it work? And a lot of times it's the playing with it and making it work that is the
Mm.
most frequent outcome, rather than the definite yes or the definite no.
Yeah, that's like the gray area is instead of the black or white, of course.
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
big gray area. Play with it.
Yes. Have
Play
fun
with
in
all the
there.
50 shades.
Exactly. Exactly.
And how can we live more in alignment with our values?
The first step, just knowing what they are,
Mm-hmm.
naturally makes you aware about them, and then you start to see them everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
I keep mine on a little post-it next to my desk so that
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'm working on things, planning things, journaling about, if I'm trying to make a decision or trying to understand something or how I want to respond even to something, they're
Mm-hmm.
right there where I can see them. So just either putting them on your phone or making them visible somewhere in your space, that right there is going to help you move into alignment, because it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
at the forefront of your mind. It's like anything new.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not using it and you don't remember that you have this tool in your toolbox,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to
Like,
put
how
it to
does this
work.
work?
Exactly. So you've got to play with it when you don't need it.
Right,
Figure
right.
it out when you're not in a panic, and
Mm-hmm.
see how they work for you and how you want to work with them. And that's really, we're all going to use them in different ways, but that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
that sweet spot. It's just starting with that list, just sitting down and really, are these mine?
Right.
Are the ones I picked actually mine, or are any of these shoulds?
Mm. And what if you have found your true values and you want to start living in alignment with them, but you feel resistance from family members, friends? How do you deal with that?
Oh, family member and friends. Yeah. Sometimes you're going to find that the more you embrace your values, some relationships fall away. Not always, but some do. And I think you sort of have to be open to that possibility that some just may not work.
Right.
But more often than not, I think people appreciate the fact that you know what matters to you and they just need time to adjust to the new way of moving that you're moving through the world. So let's say you are having to make a choice about a relationship. You're having this discussion, maybe it's some conflict, right? And you're like, God, I don't even know how to respond. How am I supposed to even, right? Especially with family members, you're like, I have to live with this person till the end of days. Like, okay, how am I going to navigate this?
Right.
You pull your values out and you're like, all right, what's happening here? So one of my values is grace for others and grace for myself. A lot of times grace for others is easier than grace for ourselves, I think, personally. So that's really there to remind me to have grace for myself. No, I will give grace to everyone else but myself. But I would tune into that value and say, okay, where in this dynamic does grace need to come in? Where does authenticity need to come in, or joy or connection? All of those things are present on my list. How can I weave them in? I can't control how they respond, but I can control how I show up.
Right.
So how can I weave this in a way that allows me to show up more fully from a place of love? And then they have the choice to react however they're going to react. But I think that's one of the really great ways that they can work. And then, of course, making any decision in your life. Values are fantastic. Is this in alignment with what I believe, or is it not?
Yeah. There you go. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you.
You're welcome.